Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Black Girls Have Anxiety Too, the safe space created for Black women by Black women to strip away the taboo of talking about mental health. You'll hear from mental health professionals and advocates as well as Black women sharing their experiences as we break down the complexities, explore ways to heal, and support each other. My name is Ashley, I'm your host. Whether you're a seasoned regular or this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much for your support. Now let's get into today's episode. My name is Ashley, and welcome to another episode of Black Girls Have Anxiety Too. I'm super excited to sit down on the couch with you guys today. I have a really special guest that spoke to a while ago. I want to say a few weeks ago when we connected, and I was like, man, I cannot wait to record this episode. So today we have Ryane LeCesne on the podcast today. LeCesne. Oh my gosh, I still screwed it up, didn't I?
You did
I still
great.
screwed it up. Ryane LeCesne.
You got it.
If you're listening, I hate pronouncing people's names wrong. So I'm going to repeat this multiple times throughout the podcast. But ladies and gentlemen, we have Ryane LeCesne. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley, and thank you to your listeners. I'm
Yes.
so delighted to be here.
I'm so
Equally
excited.
as excited and delighted and honored.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yay. Awesome.
Super fun.
So Ryane, let me give you guys a little bit of a background. Ryane is a Master Mindset Coach. She is the Master Mindset Coach. Over the past 10 years, she has coached nearly 1,000 high-achieving women, specializing in the unique needs of high-achieving Black women to advance their professional dreams by overcoming and healing from self-limiting mindsets of imposter syndrome and perfectionism. Ooh, I know about that. She is the wife of a very loving and supportive super guy and a mommy to a very special love bug. She's a proud member of the Lynx Incorporated and Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and a graduate of Spelman College and Georgetown University. So let me just I need to have a button that's like applause, but I'll just
Oh,
give you
that's so
some
fun.
applause.
Thank you. Thanks. That's
Yes.
fun.
It's
Thanks.
welcome. You're
Received.
doing a
Thank
lot
you.
of like amazing things.
Thank you.
I know that we're going to touch on a lot of things this episode, but you are definitely the first mindset coach that I've
Okay.
had on the podcast. So I'm really excited for everybody to meet you. But not only that, Ryane is also an energy healer. So we'll
Yeah.
get into a little bit of that later. But she's got a lot of things going on, and I'm super excited to get into them. But before we roll into the episode, we're just going to take 3 minutes. It's a quick 3 minutes. It won't feel like 3 minutes. It's probably going to feel like one. But we're just going to ask Ryane some quick questions, and you just kind of give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Fun. Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
All right. What is your favorite meal to cook?
First thing that came to mind, chicken parmesan.
Ooh. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Newly morning.
Oh, what time?
5 a.m.
Oh, I'm so impressed.
So
All
new.
hail to morning people
Actually,
because
since the summer. Yeah,
since the
it's
summer.
newer.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it for sure.
Yay. Do you like, was it for a specific purpose or like a job change or something?
You know what I remember? I needed to take my niece to a very early morning flight, like a 6 a.m. flight or something like that. So I had to be up like incredibly early. And again, when that happens, like appreciated the morning. I was like, this is like really sacred time. And then I started to get up at that time for whatever reason. It started to become a habit. And since then, it really has become my time. Now, what I also have done is I've started to go to bed at like 9:30 when my daughter goes to bed, which I used to stay up until like 12, but I would be at my desk literally like this from 10:30 to 12 and like, that stoop over. So I don't mind. So I'm in bed at 9:30 and I'm up at about 5:15 now. And I like it.
That's
It's
awesome.
fun.
Goals.
Thanks.
Maybe I'll try it one day. I don't know.
It's fun.
Are you a cat person or a dog person or both?
Definitely dog. I appreciate cats, but God all the way. God spelled backwards all the way. Dog.
Okay. I can't argue that one. Popcorn or
Mm.
M&Ms or both at the same time?
Oh, that's a good one. Maybe all three.
All three.
That's
Okay, I
hard.
like it.
That's hard. Each on its own and together.
Yeah.
Peanut M&Ms for sure, though.
Okay, I'm peanut butter M&Ms all the way.
Oh, so is my
Yeah.
bestie. Yes,
Yeah. I'll
peanut
settle for
butter.
peanuts though.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, well, peanut butter is a close
Yeah.
1.5. Yeah.
Right behind it. What's one cool feature you would add to your dream house or to your house right now?
Oh, steam shower.
Steam shower. Oh, I never thought
Oh
about
my
that.
gosh.
Oh,
Absolutely, steam shower would be so
okay. With some
awesome.
essential oils or like the
Oh,
eucalyptus.
exactly. I've
Yeah.
seen on Instagram those like beautiful bunches. I guess I see them at Trader
Yes.
Joe's too, but like those eucalyptus bunches with lavender and rosemary. Oh my goodness, like that. I would
Yes.
totally add that to my house.
Yes. Oh,
Hmm.
me too. Shout out to
Yeah, that'd be
Trader
fun.
Joe's. I love Trader Joe's.
Me too.
Okay. Describe the last time you laughed so hard you thought you would cry or you did cry.
Oh, I can actually tell you, it was just a couple of, oh, it's so sweet. It was a couple of days ago. I was sharing a story with my husband about our sweet neighbor friend's son, who is absolutely amazing. And it tickled me, just the little story that I shared tickled me so much that I literally like had tears in my eyes. It was so sweet.
Oh,
It's just
cute.
the sweetest family and child. And it was so sweet and so cute. I just literally laughed until I cried.
Oh, I love that. Those
So
moments
cute.
are just good for the soul.
Good for the soul. It was a good
Yes.
one. It was.
Well, the next thing we're going to do is just get into our mind games questions. So before we
Fun.
kick off into my juicy questions, we are going to do the mind game question. If I'm changing the segment up, so you guys hold on to your horses. We're changing it up. A change is good, right? We are going to basically give you the mind games question now, and then at
Mhm.
the end, we'll give you the answer. So you got to stick around. Don't leave. You can hit pause and come back later, but don't leave. So today's mind game question, if this is your first mind game segment that you're listening to, in the mind game segment, I basically read the definition of a mental health disorder, and you guys get to guess. And then I give you all the symptoms and the types of treatment and all that good stuff with the answer. So, Ryan, you ready for
I am.
today's
This is
question?
exciting. I feel like I want to take notes. I think I
Okay.
am, actually. I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. What's it gonna be? I'm all
All
about
right.
this. Okay.
So, for today's mind game question, this disorder is a mental health condition in which you can't stop thinking about one or more perceived defects or flaws in your appearance. A flaw that appears minor or can't be seen by others. But you may feel so embarrassed, ashamed, and anxious that you may avoid certain social situations. When you have this disorder, you intensely focus on your appearance and body image, repeatedly checking the mirror, grooming or seeking reassurance, sometimes for many hours each day. Your perceived flaw or flaws and the repetitive behaviors cause you significant distress and impact your ability to function in your daily life. The treatment for this particular disorder includes cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT and medication. Some of the symptoms some of the most common features that people tend to fixate on with this particular disorder are different features on their face, such as nose, complexion, wrinkles, acne. It could be their hair, hair that is thinning, or baldness, or just their overall appearance of their hair. Maybe the skin and vein appearance, which is interesting. Hadn't heard of that. Breast size, muscle size, and tone, and for some people, even genitalia. So that is the mind games description for today. Ryan, do you want to guess? I won't tell you if it's right or wrong.
Okay. So I can guess now.
Actually, let's guess later. We'll guess
Okay.
later.
It's now.
Write
Okay.
down, yeah,
Okay.
write down your
Okay.
guess, and
Okay. I
then we'll
do
guess
have a
later.
guess. I have a guess.
Okay.
I have a guess. And the guess that I have, and I'll share it whenever you guide me to share it, is I'm not sure if it's actually, first of all, this is so interesting. And I would just love to hear like trivia more about this. This is like so fascinating to hear this
Oh,
way.
that's
That
a
is
good
so fun. That
idea.
is
That's a really good
really,
idea.
really like, wow, what is it? What is the mind game? Love it. Um, I am not sure if my guess is an actual like a disorder or if it's like a category of disorders. Do you know what I mean? If it's like
Mm-hmm.
a collective. I'm not sure because I don't really know enough about it. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to
Yay.
hear. Yeah.
Okay, well, hold on to that guess, and at
Okay.
the end, we'll have you say your guess, and then I'll
All
give you
right.
the final answer. Sound
Fun,
good?
fun. That's great. That was
Cool.
very interesting. That was a very interesting disorder. A
Thank
very
you. I
sticky one. That's a sticky,
yes,
sticky,
I always
sticky
like to
trap.
find like
Ooh.
interesting ones. You're like, is it this? Is it this? I don't know. I may have heard of it before, but then like some of these
Yeah.
symptoms are new.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I always try to find some interesting ones. But I like the trivia idea, so I will write that down on my big board of
Fun.
podcast ideas.
That is fun. That's fun. That's cool.
Yeah. So, Ryan, let's get into your career as a mindset coach. So,
Fun.
how did you end up here? Like what inspired you to become a mindset coach?
Yes. Okay. So I love this question because in all honesty, it's like where in my life do I begin the intersection of the story, because how did I end up here? Um, just even certainly dialing back to the literally the very beginning sort of life. I have to attribute not so much the business of what I do, but the interest of what I do, honestly, from my upbringing. My dad is a like total nerd and geek about the mind, mindset, productivity. So things like Stephen Covey as a kid, like cassette tapes, okay, in the car, Stephen Covey. Um, Sales. My mom was the same about psychology. So we did books on tape about mindset. So I mean, it's really something when you look at my parents' libraries in their homes, it's like literally in their home, it's literally, from my roots. Like I have to say that. Now, that may be, sort of may or may not be interesting. Where do things get interesting? Sort of like, huh, how did you get into that specific field? I will say that I, did a lot of things, explored a lot in my 20s, which I would, recommend people to allow yourself to explore different kinds of things, different kinds of careers. And I was at a point where I had created a passion project, which was called at the time Inspire. It was called Inspire Sunday Brunch. And I started that in 2012, the summer of 2012. And the idea was to have a platform. I didn't originally think I would fill the platform, but it was to have a platform to bring my girlfriends together and to talk about these professional development um, type of conversations, which I was creating and crafting at work through the career that I was having at the time, this nonprofit that I was running. And if, and I just had this passion project, and then fast forwarding, I got a little bit lost in my mind because I was like, okay, where do I go next? Fast forwarding to this nonprofit. So I was working, and, we talk about sometimes when we talk about our careers, when we talk about these impasses where it feels like the world is imploding on us, or we're, maybe filling a narrative that feels like it's a typical one, or it feels like you're getting boxed out of something that you might love, or why do things at work feel so chaotic? Well, in retrospect, what I have come to appreciate is that meant growth for me. Right. And so I could frame it as like this really difficult time, which it was in my life and in my career. And it was called growth. That growth was very uncomfortable. And growth said to me, it is your time to leave this very secure nest that you have outgrown, that is frustrating you and eating at your soul.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, it was a real thing. This growth, this thing called growth. And I had this project called Inspire that I was nurturing. I had renamed it to be Inspire Image Consulting. I had created an LLC for it, but I wasn't doing. I wasn't like actively. It wasn't a business, and so I left this nest and started a business. It was not a coaching business. It was a business that I knew I wanted to empower people, inspire them to grow and to like be better versions of themselves. Well, again, life is so amazing. I happened to take a class at my alma mater, Georgetown, that was taught by a coach. She came in and she said this very profound question: do you talk to yourself as if you are your own best friend? And it was one of those moments where I had two responses. I got red on two levels. One was like, no. And that's very painful, like to come to that realization
Yeah.
of like, no, I don't. I actually am very critical. I'm judgmental. Who would talk to themselves as if they're their own best friend? How would you get anything done? And two, right? And then two, I had this like aha moment of, oh my gosh, this is the level of conversation I want to be having with people. Like, this is the conversation. What is your relationship with you? You and you. What is that? And it was the first time I'd ever been introduced to this thing called coaching, mindset coaching, leadership coaching. So I went back to school and got my certificate again from Georgetown. I do love the school, and became a certified professional coach. Then I started like an actual business, and that's a whole nother topic that I think in this conversation may be worthy of having. But I'm going to sum it up this way in saying that running a business is a completely different journey than becoming, a mindset coach.
Mhm.
Business is totally, totally different. And coach was a whole level of like getting in touch with perfectionism and imposter syndrome and how that has a grip on someone and their dreams. And then standing as a business owner and asking someone to pay you your value and standing in your value and understanding your worth. I mean, and then understanding systems. And that was the most band-aid ripping rawness of like, it's you and you and your dreams, and perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and distractionism are things that you must tackle and like really get into a zone of recovery around if you're going to move forward. So it is a long and short of like, how did I get here and what do I do and what does it mean? And those three mindsets can and will destroy dreams. They will send them to the graveyard. And I have had to over and over and over and over again in my business pick myself up off of the ground, like in puddles, doing the same thing that I teach my clients to do because, you know, I'm like everybody else. I have anxiety too.
Yeah.
And it's like a real thing, I
Yeah.
get it. Hmm.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know you mentioned the change in mindset and like the shift that happens. And I want to ask you, how does your mindset, how is your mindset different now than it was 10 years ago?
That's a really, really great question. One, I think overall I am much okay, let me start in terms of trying to organize. That's an interesting question because okay, in so many ways what I'm getting as like a visual image, like maybe a metaphor, some type of visual is sort of like waves. It's like I've come so far, right? I've come so far in my recovery, let's say. And so that's like it's like the undercurrent going out. I can go like really, really far out. And then life happens and then there's like a wave, and then I can go really, really far and then a wave. So I say that to say like there is no zone of like zen, there's no zone of like, this is just I'll study. It's like always growth, but it's like how to deal with growth, how to be
Mm,
in growth and not have your nervous system so overstimulated where you're believing the negative thoughts, where they are so true that they are like impacting your ability to function and move forward. And so, yeah, okay, so
so I'm hearing like you over time, it sounds like you know how you're better at dealing with that ebb and flow of life. So things come
yes.
along, growth happens, change happens, uncomfortable eras for some of us happen. And the mindset is really what helps you manage through those ebbs and flows of life.
I would say that's the first layer. And then breaking that down into practical steps, I would say one is mindfulness. Mindfulness is really, really important to build that self awareness of like, I am in flow and I'm not in flow. Number
Mm.
two, I would say, is really from that awareness, leveraging support networks is really, really important. I have a coach. I also have a therapist, along with the doctor and all those dentists and all the other good things. And I share that very openly because I am in the work, and this work is my expertise. Like this is my jam. I am very, 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 very good at this. But guess what? I cannot, like everybody else, I cannot see my blind spots.
Mm.
And like everybody else, I've got big dreams that really scare me. I've got, you know, I was raised by loving people who were totally crazy, and I'm loving and I'm totally crazy. And it's like, you've got to process through these things, and we've got help. And so I would say that's another piece that really does help me manage this whole idea about mindset. It's learning about it, learning about yourself, and also having the support. I call it a brilliance team, and I literally coach my clients to create one, and to keep it ongoing. What do you need? What do you not? What do you need to automate? What do you need to is it a house cleaner? Is it your groceries? What can you automate to take off your list so that you can, focus on other things and you don't have to be so wound up in all areas? But all of those things I think are really, really helpful
Yeah, and let's
for
go back
me.
to that first step of mindfulness.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about mindfulness a couple of times on the podcast, but for somebody that may just maybe this is their first time hearing that word, can you like how would you describe mindfulness?
Yeah. Mindfulness, I think, mindfulness is one, a concept, and two, a practice. As a
Mm.
concept, I would say it is the idea of being able to recognize when your mind has wandered off, which, like, 99% of the time it's probably doing. It's thinking about something. It's probably not thinking about like the present moment, observing, whatever. It's thinking about ruminating on something, thinking about something. And so mindfulness is the ability to be able to notice that and to bring your mind back to the present. And then notice it again and come back to the present. And to practice this enough where there's this state of mindfulness, a state of beingness, where you're, able to be more present. But what does that mean? I would say that means that being more present, couple levels. One, being more present means not being hijacked in thought and like actually being present. Like I'm talking to you and I'm not thinking about other things, my grocery list, I'm here, I'm connected. Present also means that you are able to engage in a way with your own thoughts where you're not like hijacked emotionally by something else. You're like consistently present. And then it comes through practice. Practicing meditation is generally the
Mm.
way to become more mindful, which is this ability to like notice my mind is hijacked and come back. My mind is hijacked and come back.
Yeah,
That's
thank
how
you
I
so
would
much for
describe it.
that. Um yeah, I think understanding that word, it seems like it's kind of like a buzzword nowadays.
Mhm.
So it's nice to actually have the breakdown of like what is mindfulness and like how does meditation intertwine with that? And I know for some people meditation is thinking of nothing, but I for me I think of when I the times when I am able to just sit and like do a guided meditation. For me it's kind of like it's been letting the thoughts come in, recognizing them and kind of like making a decision to not continue to think about that and trying to focus on just being present or just being, I guess, right?
That's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And I actually teach meditation. I teach mindfulness, and actually that is exactly it. So when we talk about this idea of like thinking about nothing, that's really I would say that's really a myth and almost a misnomer. I mean, the idea is that you're able to transcend thought sort of in these micro moments. And yes, after like long periods of meditation, like years and years, can you maybe go, can you, yes, absolutely go into these very deep meditative states. And can you do it quickly? Absolutely. But that's not the point. The main point of meditation from a mindfulness practice, not necessarily from a spiritual practice, from a mindfulness practice, is exactly what you said. It is the ability to notice my mind has wandered. And in that catching of your mind and being able to pull it back to center, back to a focal point, that's the exercise. That's the win. So in fact, failing, like getting off the path and catching yourself and coming back, that is the win. Because what that means is, again, as this becomes a habit, and I don't mean a habit like 10 years, I mean, the ability to, you're in a heated discussion, um, and you notice, like, I'm angry
Mm-hmm.
and my attitude is angry, and I'm about to say something that's very fierce, and I don't really want to say that. And I'm noticing, and I can more easily catch my thoughts and my feelings, and I can route myself to my center a little bit more than I could have without my meditative practice.
Right.
And that's how like the rubber meets the road, because you're like, oh, in real time, in real situations where I could, you know, let things go awry, I have more capacity to be mindful, choose my
Mm-hmm.
words. And that's just one example of one time, but that's
Yeah.
what mindfulness helps us do.
Yeah. I love that. I love that example of just a very real, I feel like real life example from like family to friends to just,
Hmm.
making it a decision in that moment when somebody like runs over your heel with the grocery cart. Are you going to snap, or do you have the mindfulness to decide, okay, what is the reaction that I want? What,
Yes.
okay, I'm angry for this hot second. And now what? What's next?
Exactly. Stimulus and response, as Stephen Covey, talks about it. Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
Viktor Frankl talks about it that way too. Hmm.
Oof. I
Stimulus
need
and
I need to
response.
look up
Yeah.
all these names that you keep dropping. So, Ryan, you mentioned earlier one of the things that you coach is perfectionism. And I
Hmm.
remember when I was doing my research, I was like, wow, I don't think I guess I didn't realize perfectionism could be coachable, which is, I think that's really hopeful for me. For me especially. I'm a
Yeah.
Capricorn, and I'm very much like a perfectionist, and I
Hmm.
like to be in control. So,
Hmm.
what are some tips that you have, or, well, let's roll back. For perfectionism, how does fear, anxiety, and perfectionism, like, how do they connect? How are
Hmm.
they intertwined, or how can they be intertwined?
Yeah, fear and anxiety with perfectionism. Okay, so let's first just very quick distinction for perfectionism, because it's quite different than often what people think that it is. Because people think, oh, I don't have that because I'm not perfect, or I don't need my pencils lined up in a row. And then they hear the definition and they're like, oh, maybe that is me. So perfectionism as a mindset really is this idea that one has like a belief system, or kind of like a perspective that says, until I'm ready, or until my idea is perfect, or until, like, you think of maybe like uh, a project that you have, or an email that you need to send, and particularly one where you feel like, if 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 I am seen with any mistakes in this thing, my reputation is on the line. Now, that could be, when you really get into it, that could be anything like, what does my hair say? What do my nails say? What do my shoes say about me? And if the sense is, I am not perfect enough, I am not ready enough. I'm not enough. I am not ready to be seen. I'm not ready to be exposed. I'm not ready to stand in that light. And so the consistent behavior pattern is getting ready to get ready. I'm getting ready to get ready. What are you doing? I'm getting ready to get ready. Well, how's your business? It's getting ready to get ready. Well, how's that idea? It's getting ready to get ready. I'm getting ready to get ready. I've been planning. I'm thinking. Yes. Well, where's the action? Well, that gets very scary. That part gets,
Hmm.
so here's the fear, right? So if there's a story internally that's at the core of it that says I'm not enough, essentially the root emotion of that is shame, right? Because I'm not enough just simply opens me up to vulnerability of exposure, of not being enough,
Mm.
not being perfect, not enough, not worthy. I mean, it's the belly, it's the like the, literally the bowels of your feelings. And that can, essentially a symptom of that, or an outcome is of that is anxiety. Am I enough? What do I do to then be enough? How do I then act to become enough? How do I, you know, chastise myself or judge myself to then be enough? And that produces a high level of angst, you know.
Yeah.
And then how does perfectionism, excuse me, how does imposter syndrome then, a, like a cousin, or even very much tethered to this, and how it can be very loopy, is I'm not perfect enough. And then I might step into this role, and I don't want to be caught as an imposter. I don't want people to know that I really don't know how I got here, or maybe I don't have all the answers. And so it like trips up on itself. I'm not perfect and I'm an imposter. And so they can be very tightly woven in terms of their symptoms. And then distractionism is this sort of offshoot of things are so overwhelming because I'm ready to get ready all the time, that I'm constantly distracted. I just can't quite focus and get to the priority. And so it really, fear is at the essence of it,
Yeah.
of
All
I'm
of
not
those
enough.
sound like
Mhm.
me. That's all.
Understood. Understood. Sister, I hear ya. I
Yeah.
understand.
Like,
Yeah.
you just read my if I had a book, that would have been my bio of the book. Like
I know.
perfectionism,
It's,
distractionism, imposter syndrome, fear, all of those things balled up.
yeah. Yeah. And what I really, in terms of acronym, I love the acronym FEAR, because it really is the mind. And when we talk about the mind is more than the brain. The mind is your entire nervous system. The mind is your skin, your eyes, your ears, like all of that is part of the mind. And the mind has a mind of its own, and its job is to keep us alive, which means we are hardwired to really have some very scary, scary, scary thoughts, which create very scary emotions, which create very scary body responses. So, in a flash of an eye, you can imagine yourself doing something very scary, like raising your hand, or, and having your voice heard, or public speaking, or seeing a dog, or anything else that can invoke fear in you. And immediately, like, we're frightened. And so we've got to really like understand what that the mind is like. You and I, we are like the whole thing. We are our minds. And how do we become more mindful, using that word again, of what our mind is telling us, and a lot of times disbelieving what it's saying, because
Mhm.
that fear, that false evidence appearing real, it's not real. And the mind wants to believe that it is, because it wants to keep us safe, but it's not. We've got to really lean into the truth, which is the reality you really have, which is the truth. Like, you are enough to take
Yes.
seriously the first step, let
Yeah.
alone like the first 20. Mhm.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, trying to get to that point um is definitely tough. I think feel like that's a long it feels like a long journey, but it is nice to know that there is someone like you that can help with that, because it can sound very intimidating and like overwhelming, to
Mhm.
just realize, oh my gosh, maybe I am feeling all of these things. Maybe you're listening to this and you're like, oh, this is what I'm going through. Somebody's actually putting words into all these feelings that hang out in my nervous system. And but yeah, so
Mhm.
let me know. I know that
Yeah.
you mentioned working with women, specifically high achieving women, kind
Mhm.
of conquer these pieces. Um, and so, what are some of the benefits? Because I know we're talking about like what happens when these things are happening, but what are some of the benefits that women see once they do start to conquer these things, like self doubt,
Mhm.
fear, and perfectionism, and all of those things you just mentioned?
Yeah. So broadly, and then concretely, broadly, I will say what people feel is a real inner shift, and a greater sense of I think when I say greater sense, I mean longer micro moments of more gentleness internally, um, more mm, a greater ability to integrate your whole self, meaning a lot of times what happens when we, you know, unravel, right? When we're unraveling, the inner dialogue can be things like, I hate my life. I hate this. This is terrible. This sucks. This, I just, only if I could, if only this, I mean, it's like, can be very, 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 not just toxic, but like, eroding of self. And essentially what has happened is self has abandoned self. Like self is like, I'm checked out. You're right. You suck. Like,
Yeah.
you the worst, man. You who the hell would send some kind of email like that? It's like the dumbest. Like, wow, self has really abandoned self. And so essentially what we wind up doing on a very like core level is not abandoning ourselves. It's like, because those moments happen. Why did I
Mhm.
send that email? Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm a good person. Okay. Secondly, I'm a good person. Let's just stop there. Right?
Yeah.
Like, let's just cut it. Like,
Yeah.
cut this. Cut the abuse. Cut the
Mm.
self-abuse. Cut just a greater ability to like cut it off at the source more quickly, rather than 6 days of ruminating around something. Maybe it's like 3 days because you've got greater tools. And then, so that from a core level. Now, what do people tell me? I've got people one woman that is on like testimonial video saying that she has let go of the story that as a Black woman, she has to work twice as hard and expect half. Well,
Mm.
now I will say that is an anthropological success because that is a story and a narrative that is deeply rooted in our
Yeah.
psychology as Black women. And for her to have dismantled that through like coaching work and all of the things that she has done, that is her work, that is not my work. She has done her own work. I did support and help guide a lot of that. She did her work. That's the thing. She did it. And that's a huge story to, be a huge story to dismantle. One woman said, was it, I got $100,000 increase in my pay. Was it worth it? Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. So some
Yeah.
very concrete, when you think differently about yourself and you show up differently for yourself, cataclysmic things tend to happen, which is great, which is great. And so yeah, those are some of the ways I think, coaching really, really can help just from more than money standpoint, to be able to say that you are there for yourself more often because life is life. Life is challenging. Life is I don't love to say that life is hard, but like literally we live in a physical universe. Like this desk is hard. Like
Yeah.
the
And it doesn't
gravitational
stop.
pull, right.
Life
It's like
just doesn't stop.
chaos is part of literally scientific universe. So it's like, yeah, but how do we better manage the chaos without losing ourselves,
Yeah.
without turning ourselves over to the anxiety because it's very real and it can be all consuming.
Yeah.
Mhm.
100%. That is so true.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
can you tell me a little bit more about, I think I mentioned it earlier, but can you tell me a little bit more about the, I guess, the demographic or the type of women that you are seeking to work with?
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved this question when we talked about this earlier because, what is a high achieving woman? What does that mean? And what I said then and what say now, what I will say now and I'll say anytime is I think that is absolutely self defined. I will define it like this though, meaning self defined, like I can't define what a high achieving woman is for anybody except for me, right? And I can say that I am high achieving. I can observe and say, "Wow, I think she's high achieving. She's high achieving," but it's because of a quality, not because of like any other indicator. And the quality is a person who leans into their dreams, right? Because we all have dreams, but not everybody is really grappling with how do I accelerate and advance into this, whatever that is. How do I make this like better? How do I breathe
Mhm.
life into this? How do I expand this? How do I make myself better? How do I expansion just keeps coming up. How do I evolve? How do I make an impact? Whatever that is, and to me, that's high achieving. That's somebody who's stretching, growing. That doesn't mean that that person would necessarily say they're high achieving. In fact, let me say this. When I started my business, like the actual like business in 2015, and I was like really starting my marketing, I was talking to my dad, and I was talking about the state of women, like the women that I coach, like how I describe them. And I said, I want to call them like highly ambitious and highly motivated and high achieving. And he said, yeah, but Ryan, that's not necessarily how they would talk about themselves. And that's true, right? Like they might not say, I'm high achieving, but I don't really actually think that that's true. I think that they would say, I am high achieving and I feel stuck, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm claiming I'm a high achiever. And
Yeah.
the issue is like, how do I take action on this? How do I
Right.
believe it? How do I make it happen?
Yeah.
Not am I high achieving? Like, you know,
Yeah.
we know.
It's
We
like
know.
battling that, okay, I know what I'm capable of, but why am I not there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And that's, like that has no kind of, to me, marker other than that. Like I can't put a degree on it, an income on it, a label of anything else other than what you exactly said. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope that whoever's listening, if you even feel like this is a title that fits, like embrace it. Cause I don't think we do
Yeah.
that enough, especially as Black women. We like I feel like we fight really hard for certain for to be in the space. And sometimes we don't claim these titles that can feel like, am I doing too much by calling myself high achieving? No, you've achieved a lot. You are like on the track that you want to be
Absolutely.
on. Like, yes, you're high achieving. I am high achieving. I remember I left that conversation, the phone call that we had, and I thought about that for like a couple of days. It's like high achieving. Am I high achieving? I feel like I was high achieving, but I am. I think yeah, I'm high achieving. I
Yeah,
feel like I'm a high achieving woman. But it takes a second to
absolutely.
like let the words kind of like roll off off your tongue
Yeah.
like I am high achieving? Yes,
Yeah.
I am. And like I feel like we should own those things more. Own those
Well,
titles
thank
more.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, thank you, Ashley, for that feedback, just in terms of the experience with that word. Um, because I love the idea of like something growing on you. I've had that experience where you're like, it kind of like washes over you, where you're like, oh,
Mhm.
and then you're like noodling on it, like, yeah, like I love that. That's so cool. And then that washing over of like, yeah, and I'm happy that like what a declaration for you, like
Yeah.
I am high achieving. Like that means something. That's a real like to me like a shift in your own valuing of your value,
Yes.
like that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it
Good for you
was
because you are
like
high achieving.
thank thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yes, and shout out to all the other high achieving women, even if you don't
Whoop,
know it
whoop.
yet.
That's
You're gonna
right.
get there. Give yourself
You
a
will.
couple
You'll noodle
days.
on this. You'll be like, oh, it'll hit you at a stoplight. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I am high achieving. I'm like,
Yes, that's me. That's me. It's always been me.
there you go.
So let's talk a little bit about the three energies of professional advancement. I want to get into
Mhm.
that. So what does that mean to you? What are those
Yeah.
three energies, and how do they connect with advancing professionally?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really love talking about these three energies a lot. I talk about them all the time and with my clients in my practice. And the first, which is clarity, really has two pieces. And the first piece is we cannot soar like we can no here's the way to phrase it. We can only soar as high as our fears will allow us, right? That's as high as we're going to go, as high as our fear will allow us. So we've got to get clear on what what's causing the fear, not what necessarily like why, although that can be important, but what is it, like what literally is the mind telling you, literally, and this is where mindfulness and the guided conversation and all the things are so important, Because here's the essence of the question. What is your mind telling you are the reasons why you can't? Whatever, can't blank. And those literally are the reasons why you can't. Like literally, right?
Mm.
Like those are all the reasons why if you were at the starting line or even maybe the finish line of that goal and then you put a but in between you and that goal, those are all the reasons why like we don't have what we want because of those
Mm.
buts. Okay, so get really clear on that. We also have got to get clear, and that's called healing. That's called
Yeah,
heal.
it's
Okay,
on the long road.
incredibly important. Okay. And we also got to get really clear on what is your brilliance. What is your strength? What are your interests? What are your passion points? It has to be balanced. We cannot focus only on healing and we cannot focus only on our strengths. We've got to like really heal both. We've got to accept both. We've got to lean into both. And we want to focus on, in my opinion, like the things that we are good at. Like that's where we find joy. That's where, so getting clear, clarity on where you want to go. What do you want to do? How do you want to spend your energy? All of that is so, so important. Then we're talking about courage and confidence.
Mhm.
Okay. So when we talk about confidence, it's really about believability. It's about believing I can. And the thing that's inherent about confidence is most of the time when we're experiencing something new, inherently there's a lack of confidence. And as adults, we forget, and we have been, not only do we forget, but we have been totally socialized to believe that we should not ever experience something new or practice things, or that like, oh
Mhm.
no, the first time that you as a mom, this is my case, are taking your kid to kindergarten or to whatever it's kind of thing, like that's going to be scary. Like this is new for you. Like there's going to be a lap in confidence. Like to allow that to sort of be the expectation. And we don't accommodate for that. And then, so that's inherent. But then also, what are all of the idiosyncrasies that we each have? So, what does my little nervous system tell me are all the scary things that are going to happen about my dreams, or happen if I get exposed, or happen if people see, blah, 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 blah. That erodes my confidence too. So, we've got to like believe that you can, believe that you can, believe that you can.
Mm.
And then courage is about taking action. We live in a physical world. We cannot, listen, I am like a true metaphysician. Like I want a PhD in metaphysics. Like I say that, I claim that. I am not shying away from that. However, and I'm all about Abraham Hicks. Like I'm all about manifesting. I'm all about believing and letting go in the whole cycle and all of that, and the receiving piece. I totally get it. And this is an action oriented world. Part of receiving is about taking action. You cannot receive necessarily, and speaking very gross terms because the universe can do anything. Nonetheless, it's very difficult to receive, like let's say a promotion if you hate your job and you never raise your hand. Like there's a
Mhm.
discrepancy there, like that's going to be really difficult. So nonetheless, like you got to take action. You've got to take action. So that you can't just like think it or be misaligned with it. You've got to take it. So the last piece, courage. I got a little bit sidetracked of like, I believe this, but sidetracked the courage piece to take action. This is a physical world. So that clarity, confidence, and courage, are the three energies that in combination are a great recipe for advancing
Yeah.
and moving forward.
Clarity, confidence, and courage. Yes, I need like a sign of those 3 words in my office.
And neon lights, right?
Yeah, and neon lights.
I
Oh,
get
that would
it.
be cute,
I
actually.
get
That would be cute.
it. That would be cute. I like that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how, like, why does uh entrepreneurship well, let me roll that back. And I don't have the stat. I should have had the stat ready, but I know that Black women are among one of the biggest. I know as of last year we were the biggest group or the biggest demographic to be starting new businesses, to be
Mhm.
business owners, to be new business owners. So I think with that, as someone who has like attempted to start a business and rolled back, then attempted to start a podcast and rolled back, and then back and forth, back and forth. Um, it can be very intimidating for me. So, um, but I know for me why the fear was there, and it was a fear of failure, but also a fear of the unknown because I didn't necessarily have somebody to tap into that has grown a big business or grown, a marketing company, which is what I was doing at the time, and trying to figure out the ins and outs of that from a business perspective.
Mhm.
So I wonder from your perspective, what do you think are some of the specific fears that cause that Black women going to pursue entrepreneurship are feeling?
That's such a powerful and I think necessary question. I want to answer it thoughtfully and in organized way because there's a lot I want to fit into that answer. So primarily, I want to break it down into two buckets. One bucket is like a mindset bucket that branches off into like also like a kind of practical bucket. So holistically starting, entrepreneurship, unlike any other type of work, is one where it's you and you. It's you and your vision. It's not you and Coca-Cola's vision.
Mhm.
It's you and your ability to value yourself, not your ability to be paid to value Kaiser Permanente or whomever else. Um, there is no training staff that's going to train you on these other marketing messages to say they come from you. There is no one to set the price to say we sell this for $1.99, whether you like it or not. You set the price based on what
Mhm.
you're offering, which a lot of times is your service.
Mhm.
So the list could go on and on and on and on and on about what this idea of entrepreneurship entails, let alone any kind of confidence in your skill. And I'm going to get into the distinction about that later, like the skill of marketing which was I'm sure is your skill, being that you were going to start a marketing company. It's probably among other skills. I'm sure you have many, but I didn't hear you say that you were starting a biotech firm, right? So that's
Mm.
biotech's probably not your skill. It's probably
Yeah.
marketing. So let alone like be competent in your own arena or in your field of work. So we've just listed like a whole host of things that can cause someone to really be trapped in perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and distractionism. Am I enough to charge this? That could derail a business. Am I enough to, who am I to go to this network meeting and stick my hand out and say, I am a coach and I mean, all of those things absolutely can cause someone to feel stuck, which means there's a great sense of fear that's happening. And so all of those things are things that are totally, totally coachable, totally coachable. And that's part of entrepreneurship is this idea that it is you and your ideas, and that's part of what makes it so incredibly difficult is that it is like wrought for those mindsets, those self-limiting mindsets. Now here's another piece that I want to say that I did not understand until not only I got into business, but I began to learn about business. And I want to recommend this book to any person, and I want to make a quick distinction, any person who wants to start, has already started, or has been in business for a decade if anyone is in small business. Now, there's a strong distinction between entrepreneurship and small business. I'll make it very quickly. Entrepreneurship, you're thinking about somebody who is like, you know what, I want to own a business, so I'm going to buy a franchise and I'm going to like start a business. A small business owner is a person who is like, I'm a coach or I'm a marketer or I'm a baker. And generally, this person has walked into their establishment that they are an employee of, such as I did. And one day they walked in, they looked around, they were like, I'm not coming back here. What I'm about to do is I'm about to take my smarts and I'm gonna start my own business. I'm gonna start my own thing because this up in here is like not what I'm gonna do anymore. Like I don't want to be here. So Michael Gerber, which I'm going to tell you about this book, it's called The E Myth Revisited. This is the first thing he teaches is that we have these entrepreneurial seizures and we start these
Mhm.
small businesses, but we don't know how to run a business. Now, this is, and I say this because this is where the anxiety, the fear, where it is wrought for disaster because most of us start a really terrible job for ourselves. Like I started a really terrible coaching job for myself. And guess what? My boss was nuts. She was me, and she didn't have any systems. She didn't know her value. She didn't know how. All this was new. How would I have known how to do any of this?
Mm,
None of this was new. I thought I was going to have a business and somewhere, somehow, like, I don't know, there's going to be cash flow. People are going to sign up for what? I don't have what is a business? Like,
mm,
that's a real thing. And I have I literally learned that that's a real thing. And when I tell you that was that journey, and it continues to be, it's not like I learned and I'm just at some level, every day is a new learning thing. So every day, even though I've been doing this for 7 years as a business and I'm successful, I have to manage my nervous system because this stuff is still new. It's still new.
yeah,
It's still me. It's still my dreams. It's still big. It's still highly uncomfortable. I'm still putting processes because it's a business. It's not a hobby. This is
yeah.
not a hobby,
Yeah, no, I appreciate
you
your
know?
transparency, because I think be coaches, whether it's a mindset coach or a business coach or a life coach, and we kind of think, well, this person must have perfected it. They must have perfected this thing. And I think it's really refreshing that you are so open and saying that I'm on my own journey. So as much as I'm awesome at helping everyone else, I still, one, have a coach, yourself, but also two, I'm still on my own journey. I'm still managing the my growing dreams, and still sometimes look up at them and go, oh my gosh, am I doing this? I'm doing this. And I think that's a great thing when somebody is also in that position themselves, to know that, okay, you're still familiar with these feelings, you're not so far gone in the perfect mindset. It's not, what I'm hearing is, it's not about perfection. It's about this constant growth in this tree that is constantly getting nurtured and loved and watered, and you know um as life goes on. So yeah, I appreciate you just,
Yeah.
yeah, talking a
Thank
little bit
you.
about your own experiences.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, and let me say this too, that this is, I've always been, I think, a sharer and somebody who's wanted to connect, soul to soul. I think that's, part of what draws me to coaching. I will say that as a perfectionist in recovery, this has been a learned skill to stand in authenticity, because guess what? I would have come in 4 or 5 years ago into a podcast like this, okay, I'm saying this because I think this is so just so damn important to talk about the distinction. I would have come in okay, this is a listening audience who are perhaps filled with a whole array of people that are about me and about my business, and I have to show up perfect. I have to be totally coiffed. Everything I say has to be exact. I've got to you know, like that is torturous. That whole way of being is so horribly
Exhausting. It's exhausting.
horrible. Okay.
Yes.
And so not that I don't care anymore. I care deeply and desperately, and all the things I care. And the only way to really connect with people and to connect with myself is to be honest. And that is why I'm also damn good, is because I talk about this with my clients. Listen, I hear you. Yes, this is a real thing. This is fear. I hear it. I act like I'm lasered in. I get it, because it's real and it's raw. And so I think, for perfectionists, we want to put this layer, where people don't see that processing. And not that everybody needs to see your whole process, but the point is, you're enough. That's the point. You are enough. And
Oh, I
yeah,
love that.
thank you.
Yes, I want to give that some air. You are enough.
Mhm.
Yes. So I want to go back a little bit, because I know that we've talked a lot about mindset and kind of your how you can help people with their mindset, but also just some nitty gritty details about like what is mindset. And but I want to get into the energy healing aspect that you bring in, because that was something that really piqued my interest as well when we spoke. I'm really, I mean, my mom is like certified Reiki practitioner and like very into energies, and I grew up around crystals before I even really knew they were crystals. And I come from a very Jamaican household, so it's
Mm,
very
mm,
spiritually
very goddess. Yeah.
aware.
Mhm.
So I was really interested, and you said, okay, I have this piece of me, but I also have this other piece that can intertwine. So tell me a little bit about your relationship with healing energies and kind of how you enter that space and how you
Yeah.
like where they intersect.
Yes. So again, it's like, where to start with this story? So I'll say this: when I was a kid, oh gosh, where to start? So that's such a really moving question. I'll say I've always felt very drawn to like I'm just really searching for a word because religion is not at all right. Spirituality, yes, but even maybe broader, like spirituality, metaphysics, like
Mm,
the whole idea that thoughts become things, that thoughts, feelings, the energy, like being able to transmute energy, the idea, even as a kid, the water cycle was so fascinating to me. That was the same substance, just in all these different forms. And so I think like I have a very meta brain that like can see, I like literally can see these connectivities that happen with things. And they've always been there. And there's always been this strong drive and proclivity to like things like mindfulness and meditation and chakras and reikis just for like no reason. Do you know what I mean? It's like I just
yeah.
like in like down a portal, because when I look at my closest girlfriends, my crew and my parents, like they're not talking about chakras and energy healing. And so I share that too because this part of my journey has been one that was another real grapple and wrestle with perfectionism and
Mm,
really imposter syndrome a lot because as a Black woman, as an American Black woman, um, who was raised in a Christian household, not a dogmatic one for me, fortunately, because that meant I didn't have to unravel my parents' belief in what I
mm,
am, where I am. In fact, they were quite very supportive of me. Um, Nonetheless, I, have always had this like very strong draw to like express myself in that way. But when I really started to do like deep dive study and like 15, 16, 17, really deep diving into crystals and chakras and understanding more about just the energetic body and even talking about words in this way, like this embodiment of words. Um, it was like not really closeted, but it was hard to talk about, like,
yeah.
what do you mean hypnotherapy, or what do you mean meditation, or what do you like wisdom of the crystal, like what is that? And again, for a person who unconsciously, has a nervous system that's like very sensitive, and this is also why I'm an intuitive. I'm highly sensitive. My nervous system is perceiving, and we all are, but like I'm very sensitive to perceiving energy. Anyway, as I learned, I got greater distinction, greater words, and it was all very true for me with like a capital T, like you have found your home. And so it was something I couldn't really deny.
Mhm.
And the more I learned and the more I put into practice for my life, and the more I had practiced on me with different practitioners, and the more I integrated it in my practice. And in my practice, it's my safe cocoon. So while 99% of the women that I coach are high achieving Black women, in my safe cocoon, I taught with 99% of them being, raised in Christian households. And not that it's counter to anything, but I am talking about sometimes things where people are really dismantling. I had a woman the other day really talking about dismantling um, her money story as it relates to religion. Like
Mm,
that's really, and we talk about that in coaching, being able to dismantle in all religions, there are mistruths. Of course, it's taught by human beings. It's like wrought with all kinds of craziness. And so, how do we dismantle that for ourselves and come up with our own truths as adults? And so, I was really using a lot of these tools and techniques, Reiki, crystals, working with chakras, balancing energy bodies, releasing trapped emotions, using this in my practice on clients and getting amazing results. And, when something's part of you, you just can't hide it for very long. And so,
yeah.
so it's part of what I do. It's part of my practice. It's part of how I support my clients. It's something you can do via distance. Everybody is an energy worker, whether they know that or not. Everybody is an intuitive, whether they are, aware of that or not. But we are all sentient beings. We are all energetic beings. We are all beings that have emotion and senses. And so we all are perceiving energy literally all the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. No, I think it's a beautiful intersection. And yeah, I think it's definitely exciting to know that there's somebody like you out there.
Thank you.
I really hope that if you're listening and you feel like Ryane would be a great coach for me, I hope you reach out to her.
Thank
Um,
you.
I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm not closing out just yet. We got to get into the mind games answer, but I'm really excited about what you're doing.
Thank you.
So yeah, I think it's really awesome and really needed, and I hope that you're able to connect with Black women that can self-identify as high achieving and really uh, dive in with you to kind of tackle those little like voices in our head of perfectionism, and the little voice that says, no, you're not capable, you don't belong here, like you have a seat at the table but you shouldn't be there because you're not qualified, like all of those things
Yes.
that kind of like cloud our spaces, especially when we finally start to taste that goal that we have or the goals that we have. Even if it's goals as in just motherhood, just trying to be the best mother that you want to be, or trying to be the best spouse that you're trying to be, and dismantling some of those blockers. So yes, it's very
Thank
exciting work. I appreciate you coming
Thank
on.
you. Thank you. This
Yeah.
has been so fun. So fun. You're a wonderful, wonderful interviewer. Thank you. You have
Oh, thank
beautiful,
you.
engaging questions. Thank you.
Thank
It's been
you.
really fun.
Lots of practice. Lots
See,
of practice.
practice, right?
Yes.
Lots of practice. Not perfect. Okay, so for
Yes.
everybody out there who wants to start anything, let alone a podcast, Ashley has demonstrated for us it is practice.
It
Thank
is.
you. I received that because there are several. I'm like, this should be right already. It's your first time, Ryane, right? Yeah, perfect. No, practice, girl. Right. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the reminder.
So we're going to hop back to the mind game segment. We're going to wrap that one up. Now, earlier at the start of the episode, I gave you a description of a mental health condition. And I won't read the whole thing of what I read earlier, but I'll read just a little blurb just in case you need a refresher, or if you want to hop over to Dr. Google and just find the answer, you can do that too. So the mind games question, here we go. Just a little refresher. So this disorder is a mental health condition in which you can't stop thinking about one or more I can't speak or read today. Perceived defects or flaws in your appearance, a flaw that appears minor or can't be seen by others, but you may feel so embarrassed, ashamed, and anxious that you may avoid social situations. When you have this disorder, you're intensely focused on your appearance and body image, repeatedly checking the mirror, grooming or seeking reassurance, sometimes for many hours a day. So I won't go through the whole thing, but Ryane, do you want to take a guess?
I will. Before that, I really, again, want to say how appreciative I am of this, and for a very specific reason. One is that you very well maybe have a listener out there who now has language. Language creates worlds, right? Words create worlds.
Yes.
Has a greater language for like, oh wow, that's happening to me. Or and if you are experiencing this, one, know that you're not alone, because clearly there's like people who are experiencing this too, and please get help. Like,
Yeah.
this sounds like it's very uncomfortable to experience. And so, as a person who believes in helpers, like, I encourage you, I invite you, I give you permission that if any of this is jiving with you, do support yourself. Oh,
Yes.
and maybe body dysmorphia?
Yes, body
What?
dysmorphic disorder. Good job, Ryan. Yes. Good job. Great
Thank
guess.
you.
But
How
yes, I
fun.
agree with you 100%. That was kind of one of my thought processes behind the mind games segment, is because I feel like for me, I go through things where I read, whether it's on Instagram or I'm on like Psychology Today, or I'm looking at different mental wealth or mental health blogs, and I read things, and sometimes they resonate with me, and maybe it's not even something I'm feeling right this moment, but I'm like, man, when I was like 25, I was feeling this, like what's described here, and I didn't really have words for it.
Mhm.
I didn't even know really how to ask for help because I couldn't describe what I was feeling. So yeah, I thank you for for making that
So important.
connection.
Yeah, it's so
um
important.
and like Ryan said, if this is something that you even feel like maybe you can resonate with, or you're like, man, I feel like I'm going this, or my homegirl talked about what she was going through and it kind of sounds like this.
Mhm.
Not saying to self-diagnose yourself, but I think having language, especially if you are going to get help, whether it's group therapy or a life coach, or you're going to see a psychiatrist, or you're going to art therapy and this comes up in conversation,
Mhm.
um I think it's always nice to just have these things in your back pocket of like understanding, okay, I have words for this specific disorder. um just a quick recap. So for, again, the answer is body dysmorphic disorder. The treatment of body dysmorphic disorder is cognitive behavioral therapy, aka CBT. You probably heard that on the podcast. And medication. Those are some of the treatments that are going to come directly from like a psychologist, a therapist. Um, some of these symptoms, which I thought were pretty interesting, are being extremely preoccupied with a perceived flaw in appearance that either can't be seen or appears minor. Strong belief that you have a defect in your appearance that makes you ugly or deformed. Belief that others take special notice of your appearance in a negative way or mock you. Engaging in behaviors aimed at fixing or hiding the perceived flaw that are difficult to resist or control, such as grooming or skin picking. Attempting to hide the perceived flaws with styling, makeup, or clothes. Constantly comparing your appearance with others. Having perfectionist tendencies. Seeking cosmetic procedures with little satisfaction. And avoiding social situations. So I will make sure to put the link for the answer in the description. So if you want to look into it a little bit more, feel free. Um, but yeah, hopefully if this is something that you feel like, you know, you feel like you resonate with, or, maybe a family member or a cousin or a sister or a brother, it's not just women. Um, if you feel like maybe this is something I can at least tell them about, and maybe they need the language just as much as, I need the language. So, yes. Well, Ryan, I will just say it's been a pleasure talking to you today. I'm really happy that you made time today, and I appreciate your time to come on the podcast, and just sit and talk with me. But tell the people kind of
Ashley.
where they can find you, and where, if they want to reach out for coaching, if they want to reach out and follow your journey on social media or wherever it may be, how can they get a
Yeah.
hold of you?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for this wonderful, incredible conversation. And thank you to your listening audience. So if you feel moved, like you were like, wait a minute, I want to talk to Ryan. Like, I need to talk to her. If you're like feeling so moved, please, please, please reach out and get yourself on my calendar for a free discovery call. It is 45 minutes with me, where we will talk about your hopes, dreams, goals, what's jamming you up, and how support can be helpful. So that is a free call with me. It's at my website, www.inspirebrandconsulting.com/gift. And then I also have a free tool that I offer, which is a free quiz, which will help someone identify, not prescribe or diagnose or anything else, but just identify the confidence killer that might be in your way, which is either perfectionism, imposter syndrome, or distractionism. And that you can also find on my website too, inspirebrandconsulting.com. And then on IG and Facebook, you can find me at Inspire Brand Consulting.
Yay, perfect. So make sure you guys hit Ryane up. All of her information, all of her links will be in the description. And thank you so much for offering a gift to my audience. Like, I hope you guys take advantage of it. Like, that's awesome. I really, really do appreciate that. But thank you again, Ryane. And thank you to everybody else that's listening. I really, really love y'all. I love that this community is growing, not just with like more people listening, but also me being able to meet more people and connect us all together. So I want to just say shout out to you today. Shout out to you for listening to this episode. Shout out to you for, if you've done something today for yourself, pat yourself on the back. I don't think we do that enough. Like, give yourself some credit today. If you've rested today, give yourself some credit today. Yeah, we just need a little bit more self-love. And I'm probably saying this because I need to say it to myself. But thank you to everybody that's listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Black Girls Have Anxiety Too. Also on Twitter at Anxious Black Girls. And I'm on TikTok. Your girl is I'm doing these videos. I'm finally figuring it out. But yeah, make sure to give us a follow. Thank you again for tuning into this episode. And this has been another episode of Black Girls Have Anxiety Too. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Black Girls Have Anxiety Too. No matter where you are in the world, I really appreciate your support. See you again on the next episode, but until then, follow us on Instagram at Black Girls Have Anxiety Too, and on Twitter at Anxious Black Girls. That's Anxious BLK Girls. And remember, just because you're struggling doesn't mean you have to struggle in silence. The more we talk about it, the more we heal.